The gossip of the galoshes. The old scruffy shoes had sat on the rack for quite a while, but eventually even that space was needed and they were tossed into a charity clothing bank. Suddenly they found themselves surrounded by other loud, worn-out footwear, and there was plenty to talk about. "I was at the Olympics just 4 years ago," said an old, battered trainer. "That's nothing. I was in the Himalayas just the other day," boasted a mountaineering boot that had clearly seen better days. "Easy for you lot to say. I had to endure 4 marathons, and then my soul was done for." And so it went on. There were waders and work boots with dented steel toe caps, frayed slippers, worn-out point shoes, pumps with snapped heels, hiking boots that stank to high heaven, roller skates missing their wheels, and many more besides, and everyone had a story to tell. "I'm a flip-flop from Brazil," bragged an old rubber thong. A leather rag, completely covered in paint, claimed to be a genuine Sioux moccasin. A clunky old thing insisted it was a moon boot, and an ankle boot claimed it had danced at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. "That's hardly exciting. I danced with the Tulip Queen at the festival in Holland," said a wooden clog. Then he added sadly, "They'll probably nail me to the wall as some sort of flower vase now." Only a small leather sandal held back, seemingly having nothing to say. "Well, Jesus creepers, not much going on in your life, eh?" teased the mountaineering boot. "You could say that. I spent my life under a monk's habit. I think I could walk the path from the dormitory to the chapel, from the chapel to the dining hall and back on my own by now. Day in, day out, the same route, back and forth. If the straps hadn't snapped, I'd probably still be trudging that path today, 30 years later. I put up with it all for 30 years, and then the old monk just chucks me in this bin. What will become of us?" But no one knew for sure. For a while, things remained quiet. Occasionally, the metal flap would clatter open, and a new pair of old shoes would tumble in and be greeted. Sometimes it was old slippers, sometimes children's shoes that had grown too tight, leaky wellies, or an office shoe that had simply gone out of fashion. Finally, a pair of old football boots arrived. Their owner had switched to water polo and simply discarded them. The housekeeper had fished them out of the rubbish and at least put them in the charity collection. "Too good to bin, who knows?" she had said, tossing them in. And then came arrogance personified, a worn-out golf shoe. It refused to speak to anyone. The hiking boot decided to have some fun and teased the arrogant snob. "Well, looks like you've been holed, eh? The 19th hole, the charity bin." The others laughed maliciously. The golf shoe just went, "Pah! If only you knew," and continued to sulk. Then came the day the container was collected. It was hoisted onto a lorry where 6 others were already waiting. A shiny new empty bin was placed on the pavement next to the bottle banks, and off they went to the depot. The Merry Society of Shoes had never seen anything like it. Literal mountains of old, worn-out footwear in every conceivable material. Hundreds of broken flip-flops, dozens of ballet pumps, piles of gaping men's shoes, boots, and just as many out-of-fashion ladies' shoes in all the colors of the rainbow. When the new arrivals were finally dumped onto one of the peaks, the gossiping started all over again. "Look at that lot. They're from a posh neighborhood. There's even a golf shoe," they mocked, laughing openly. "Pah, if only you knew," said the golf shoe, remaining otherwise silent. But the old shoes didn't stay piled up for long. Soon, a conveyor belt rumbled into motion, and they were sorted. First into men's and ladies', as far as one could tell, then into those that could be reused, and those so wrecked they belonged in the rubbish. Others just needed a minor repair to be useful again. The shoes that could be worn again with a little care were stuffed into a large sack destined for Asia. "Who would have thought I'd be traveling in my old age?" said an old Wellington boot. "We're going to see the world. About time too." added a ballet pump. Asia is far too warm for me, worried an old ski boot, who really only felt comfortable in thick snow. Where is Asia? Is it near Grimsby? Asked a pump in a panic, having lost her bearings completely. If you only know the pavement outside the local pub, you're going to struggle, jibed a hiking boot. That's mean, retorted the ladies' pump. And so the banter continued. In the other group, sent to a workshop for restoration, things were just as busy. The old Jesus sandal found himself here. I hope I don't end up in a monastery again, he worried. Oh, get away with you. Looking as worn out as you do, you'll end up with a beach vendor, laughed a moccasin. I really don't like sand, pondered the Jesus sandal. An office shoe had entirely different worries. I hope I get a general anesthetic before stitching. I can't stand needles. They'll fly in a famous surgeon just for you, don't worry, sneered a battered tennis shoe that was basically just missing its laces. Mock all you want. At least I'm used to the daily grind of the office, while you've probably only played tennis and never done a day's work in your life, the office shoe countered perfectly. Just knock out the dents and I'll be right as rain, said a safety boot with a crushed steel toe. The ankle boot from the Moulin Rouge was in this pile too. She dreamed of seeing the Seine in Paris one last time. That's the big river flowing through the city, like the Thames through London or the Mersey through Liverpool. You'll have to set your sights on new shores now, consoled a sandal. And then there was the pile of old tat that was truly beyond saving. This was separated by material, plastic to plastic, leather to leather, fabric to fabric. To think it would end like this, wept a slipper. From here it goes straight to heaven, right? Asked the flip-flop. A plastic boot had overheard something. A sorter mentioned a shredder. Do you think it hurts? Nah, grinned an old overshoe. You go in as a boot and come out as a car tire. You'll get a few more miles out of life yet. You are so mean. Then it got tight. They were thrown into a crate and crushed under immense pressure until they formed a solid cube of old footwear. 3 plastic straps were wrapped around it. A forklift scooped up the bale and drove it to another hall. It was very warm there. They had landed in the incinerator plant and were likely heading for the furnace to generate a bit of heat for the city. So, this is hell, screamed the marathon trainer. And those were his last words. Others actually ended up in the shredder, and you wouldn't believe it, but wonderful new things were created from the finely ground plastic granules, like synthetic roof tiles, for example. So the broken ski boot ended up on the roof of a detached house, looked up at the little white clouds and said, "So this is heaven." And what the roof tiles have to say to each other, well, I'll tell you that in another story.